Pixel 4 XL. I have covered it religiously for a week, talking about 5 things I love about it, 5 things I hate about it. I've gone in depth with the camera, I've compared it to other smartphones, and it's about time to share my full review. But I just gotta say, it's been kind of a long week for me. It's now a Saturday morning. It's 12:43 a.m. I'm very tired. I've been working and going to school all week, and at the moment I'm pressed for time, energy, and patience. And before I say anything else, you may be thinking, well, Noah, who the f*** asked you? This is a tech review, not a therapy session. But this is actually pretty relevant because I'm usually one for very long-winded, elaborated coverage that runs from 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes long. And while I plan to still do that, today, not only do I not feel like doing that, I actually can't, because if I did, I'd be up until 10 a.m. and I really can't function that way. But anyway, here with this phone, we know it's very controversial. We have the haters and the fanboys going back and forth. I've witnessed the front lines in my comments section. And today, instead of overly elaborating on this device, I have my objective analysis, and I just want to get to the point and present the facts. But before we continue here, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a like on this video, comment if you have any questions, suggestions, or opinions, as the algorithm likes that, and will help push my content to more people. Design-wise, this phone is definitely not the most beautiful out there, and that has been the case for Pixel for a while. They're not in it for the beauty aspect, they're in it for the utilitarian aspect. And although I do like the matte glass back on here, the sides just feel kind of cheap. I'm sorry, that is my opinion. I know it's made out of magnesium, but the plastic covering on it, or coating, just makes this device feel less than it costs, which I don't like. And the plastic buttons kind of add to that too, although I do like the orange plastic power button on here. But overall, it's not a bad looking phone. And the front forehead is definitely not as bad as the bathtub notch. It doesn't bother me in the slightest, actually. In terms of speaker quality, it's actually really great here with the Pixel 4 and 4 XL. It has a lot of volume and a lot of clarity, and I actually think it beats my 11 Pro Max out in terms of, music listening and YouTube watching. Talking about display here, I actually really like it. It's not anything crazy, it's not bezel-less, so it doesn't win any awards in terms of its form factor or size, but it's a very high quality OLED panel. The Pixel 4 rocks a 1080p display, which has a very similar PPI to the iPhone 11 Pros, and the Pixel 4 XL rocks a 1440p resolution, which makes things look really, really sharp. Contrasting color looks great as well. It's not the brightest display, I will tell you, compared to like the Note 10 and the 11 Pro Max. Its peak brightness is around, I think, like 450 nits compared to the iPhone's like 1000 something while watching HDR content. But overall, it looks great, and once again, it's very sharp, especially with the Pixel 4 XL. It also features a 90 Hz refresh rate, which makes stock Android a really delicious, buttery smooth experience. And I gotta say, if you're somebody who wants that and you want the stock Android experience, definitely consider picking this up. It's very much like a OnePlus device. Battery life is okay with the Pixel 4 XL in my experience, and I've read not that great with the Pixel 4, as it has a smaller battery, and if you pair that with a 90 Hz panel and Snapdragon 855, it's not a good recipe for good screen on time. But with the 4 XL, I've managed like 4.5, maybe 5, possibly even 6 hours with heavy-ish to moderate usage, which isn't that great compared to like the 11 Pro Max, which I'm accustomed to using. It gets a lot more screen on time, which is convenient, but mind you, you do get fast charging with this device. So if you like all of its qualities, which we'll talk about more, it's not going to be that big of a deal. If you leave it charging for a half an hour, you'll definitely regain a lot of your charge, and you can just go about your day. Camera, as we know, is this phone's major winning aspect, particularly in photography. Portrait mode is as good as ever. Night mode has gotten even better with Night Sight 2.0. It held its own up to the iPhone 11 Pro, which this year is a really big competitor to this phone. And in some ways, I think that the iPhone 11 Pro edged it out a little bit in some circumstances, but there are some situations where this phone is still king in terms of, once again, portrait mode and night mode. It does a really awesome job. Video is not this phone's strong suit. It doesn't have 4K 60. 4K 30 video is okay with it, but it's definitely better with something like an iPhone. But yeah, overall photography with this device, whether with the front-facing camera or the back-facing camera, is really excellent, despite the fact it doesn't feature an ultra-wide, which is disappointing. And I've gotten so many comments saying like, who needs an ultra-wide? I don't need an ultra-wide. I've never used one. Until you use one, You won't know that for a fact. And even if you're not going to use one, it should be in a device of this price range because LG implemented the feature, Samsung implemented the feature, for God's sakes, Apple implemented the feature. And if Apple implements a feature, you damn well should implement that into your nearly $1,000 phone. But Google did implement a telephoto lens here, which is nice, number one, for hardware being able to sense depth, which can make portrait mode even better. And then of course you get, lossless zoom to a certain point, a higher focal length, which can allow you to take more detailed images from further away. And then performance. This phone is one of the fastest I've used. It's stock Android, vanilla. It's going to be light and airy, and with the Snapdragon 855, although it isn't the 855 Plus, which at first I complained about, but at this point it's kind of a negligible difference, maybe like 15% increase in performance with the newer processor. Not the biggest deal, doesn't exist here. Stock Android is still going to run really, really well. Apps open incredibly quickly, and the whole UI experience is really buttery. Once again, with the 90 Hertz panel. To quickly touch on the facial recognition and the new radar tech and the forehead of the phone, and we're here because I forgot to record this in the main A-roll, so yay, change in style for a minute here. The facial recognition is very quick. It's quicker than Face ID, and I actually really enjoy it, and I do think it's secure because it makes use of, not only the front-facing camera, but Project Solely and the whole radar tech stuff. But the problem with the, unconscious unlock, where you could unlock with your eyes closed, that was a problem, but thankfully Google is patching that, so that's not that much of a concern anymore. And then the, waving to skip tracks and to view your notifications. It's kind of gimmicky, to be honest. At this point, it's not super accurate. It is fun, but I am excited to see, as I've said, how Google will implement that radar tech in the future with new features. I kind of think of it like, Tesla's autopilot. They had the technology there to self-drive. They just have to teach the device what it can do with its input data. App switching or keeping apps open is no problem with the 6 GB of RAM in here. You don't need 8 or 12 to have a good experience. It's been great gaming with it, and just once again doing everyday tasks as you would. And processing images is pretty quick because, as we know, Google's image processing is kind of intensive. And yeah, if you are in the market for a 90 Hertz stock Android experience, this is the only option you have right now, and it's definitely not a bad one if you're willing to take, all the caveats that come with this phone. So the moral of the story here is the Pixel 4, and in my case the Pixel 4 XL, a perfect phone? Absolutely not. Is it an utter disappointment and failure? No, it's not. It's for a particular type of user, just like any phone really is. So then you might ask, who is this device for? Well, for one, it's for Pixel users. If you are rocking an original Pixel or a Pixel 2 or 2 XL, I would definitely think about checking this out, especially when prices drop, I assume during Black Friday and later in the year. You will really enjoy this device because obviously it's better. It's still a Pixel device. It's also for somebody who's looking for stock Android at 90 Hertz. It's a very similar experience to that of OnePlus. So if you want to get a Pixel over that, get better image quality or camera quality, then I would opt for this device. And it's for somebody who's really into photography. This phone is one of the best in terms of that. And if you don't want to spend a whole lot on a telephoto lens that you'd find in an iPhone 11 Pro, and you don't really care about operating system and perhaps, battery life, you're fine with, plugging in to charge, and you're fine with the awkward aspects of this device, then definitely consider checking it out. So this has been my review of the Pixel 4 XL. Once again, I don't get all the fanboying and all the hating over this phone. Is it perfect? No. Is it flawed? Yeah, it kind of is. Is this the best Pixel phone Google has launched? No, they definitely could have done better. They definitely could have included more features, better battery life, an additional lens, a less awkward look to it. And once again, I wish they would change the feel and the material used on the sides of the device. So yeah, this phone has not come down from heaven or up from hell as some people have made it out to be. It's an imperfect device. It could have been better, but it's by no means a bad phone. And if your interests and needs line up with it, then definitely consider picking it up, once again, especially when prices drop. And that about wraps things up here. I hope this video helped you out. Once again, I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like on this video, comment if you have any questions, suggestions, or opinions, and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, I'm Noah, and I will catch you all in the next one.